In today's video, I want to take you guys through a very interesting report coming from Dustgolem, who is super reputable. He is always on the money, and this one is pretty interesting in that it might very well shape the course of next generation and how both of the consoles do, and I'll explain why. PlayStation 5 to cost more than Xbox Series X while struggling more with multi-platform games in performance, says Insider. Insider Dustgolem, known mostly for his Capcom Resident Evil, Street Fighter, and Silent Hill rumors, posted some new tidbits in a Reset Era thread titled "Realistically, How is Microsoft Expected to Compete with Sony Next Generation?" And coming out with that third-party stuff, all the third-party exclusives that are reportedly coming to PlayStation 5 just because Sony threw a boatload of money at them. At least that's what reports have led us to believe, but couple that with the already stacked lineup of exclusives that they have. If you couple things like Avengers DLC type things where Spider-Man is exclusive to PlayStation platforms, well, that is going to make it very difficult for Xbox Series X to compete. But how about if it was a lot more accessible from a price standpoint and it actually performed better in multi-platform games? Dustgolem noted this: "From some murmurings I've been hearing, I'll just say this, I suspect this topic is going to age interestingly when a few more details on both platforms are revealed. I mean this in a few more ways, but to give the broadest idea, I'll just say the Xbox Series X is by far the more powerful than the PlayStation 5. If we're just talking raw power, multi-platform games will run better there. It is something people are going to have to prepare themselves for. Add to this, Microsoft are ready to lowball Sony when it comes to price. They can more easily make a sacrifice and get back profits from Game Pass than console sales than Sony can from the comparatively. PS5 is easier to develop for overall, and Sony has very talented studios behind it that will get the most out of the PS5 that I have no doubts about either, but this topic is about how Microsoft will compete, so what I'm focused on. But when it comes to cross-platform games, they will end up performing a lot better on the Series X. Series X will have the tech advantage over the PS5, and it will be more than marginal. The basic gist of what I've heard is that PS5 is really good to work on for games exclusive to it, but in practice, the specs get kinda weird for multi-platform games. If the usage of PS5's SSD systems does help it a bit, but not to the fullest, and I've heard some dev friends talk a bit about the struggle PS5 has for 1080p games running 60 FPS. While Series X doesn't have the same problem and can push above that even in most cases. Of course, this is a small selection of people that I've talked to. There's more to it, but I hear something that's going to make this generation a bit interesting is the PS5. Xbox Series X's focus in on other areas are going to make multi-platform games interesting this generation to the point where we may actually see less of them and far more games coming to the platform or the other, plus PC, as it actually is kind of hard to make the game optimal for both platforms due to where they're a bit differently focused. He followed up with another post saying, "Okay, so I guess I'll just come clean here. I'm talking about Resident Evil Village. The game's terrible performance at the PS5 reveal event with a terrible frame rate present in the trailer was kind of the current status for the game on PS5 a few months ago. The thing is, apparently the game runs perfectly on Xbox Series X. They've been having some troubles getting the frame rate stable on PS5, which is as Sony had a rule to record PS5 event gameplay on PS5 led to the weird frame showing in the trailer, but it's running in the RE engine and they'll be making more optimizations to take advantage of the game there. The price stuff is from different sources. I said that earlier, but we'll clarify here. From what I've anecdotally heard from some other dev friends of mine, Series X does have the advantage when it comes to multi-platform games on most fronts, but this is still anecdotal from the people I've talked to on this topic, but I think some people should get ready for that, as it was consistent, at least with everyone I've talked to, with making games for PS5 and Series X. So a lot to digest there. First of all, let's talk about the price point. PS5 being more expensive than Series X, I think, is something that a lot of people are already prepared for initially. You know, a lot of people thought $500 for both, but Microsoft is in the position where they gotta do something, and I think undercutting PlayStation 5 in terms of price is an option that they have, which is kind of interesting because, PlayStation 5 being undercut in price would be a huge deal. Last generation, remember, Xbox One launched at $500. Yes, it came with Kinect, but who the hell wanted Kinect? They ultimately had to release the Xbox One standalone, and then that started to perform a little bit better, but at that point, PlayStation 4 already cleaned out the race, and there are a lot of other factors to it as well, but Series X being $400 hypothetically and PS5 being $500, if that is the case, that would be a big discrepancy. Added to the fact, when you talk about price, you have to talk about the accessibility of getting games on the Series X. Game Pass is a real thing, and if you're talking about $10 a month to play Halo Infinite, to play north of 100 games, to play all of the Microsoft first-party titles, and to play games like Stalker 2 when it comes out, that is a big deal, mitigating the cost for video games to the consumer, and that means day one, If the Series X is $400, you're going to be paying $410. $400 for your Series X, and then $10 for your Game Pass subscription. Add in another $40 or so for tax. You're looking at $450 for your day one experience. PlayStation 5, on the other hand, if it's at $500, you want to buy 3 games at launch, which is a pretty normal amount of games to buy. At the end of the day, that is going to be $680. Add tax to it, you're looking at around $740, $750. That is a colossal difference. You're literally talking $450 to $740 if you're talking about the price points that I'm going with. If that's the case, man, oh man, I see a lot of people thinking that the Xbox Series X is the more sensible option in terms of it's going to be so much more palatable to your wallet, and that is a big deal. However, now you talk about the factor of the game library on PS5 is probably just going to be so much stronger if this third-party rumor is to be believed. If games are going to be timed exclusive or exclusive outright from third-party, and you're just talking about Sony having a colossally strong first-party lineup of games already, whether it be, you know, Ratchet & Clank, whether it be Spider-Man Miles Morales, whether it be Horizon 2, whether it be the Demon's Souls remake. I can go on and on because Sony has fostered this lineup and this trust with the audience about their first-party titles, and people respect their first-party titles to a very big degree. However, I just think if the price differential is a real thing, man, it's gonna be hard to combat against a day one experience costing $450, or even if it's $450 versus $500, you're talking about $460 if it's Series X at $450, PS5 at $500, and then you add tax, you're essentially paying $500 at most if Series X is $450, and then for Game Pass, PS5 would still be gargantually more expensive, and that is something that must be talked about when you're factoring in both consoles, and the price differential, I think, is going to be a very interesting talking point. But for a lot of people, when you look at the game lineup, let's say a Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive, that's huge. For me, that's enough to already make my decision. Final Fantasy 16 is exclusive to PS5, I'm already sold on that. If I were to only pick one, FF16 would be that game that would get me to buy it already. For a lot of you guys, it might be Demon's Souls remake. For a lot of you guys, it might be Ratchet & Clank. And that's no slight on Microsoft's first-party offerings, because Halo Infinite might be really good. The Fable game by Playground might be really good. Forza might be really good. But when you're talking about Sony's first party, and then you're throwing on third-party exclusives on top of that, Microsoft already had to play the catch-up game when it came to exclusives, and they did a good job. I think they did a decent job, at least. Avowed, Halo, Fable, those are some strong games, and then you throw in like Stalker 2, the timed exclusives that they got. But with the report of Sony reaching out to every major third party and them being willing to talk and them getting some sort of deals, once those are announced, man, I think the game is going to be completely changed, and once we get an idea of the pricing, because Sony is also spending a ton of money to acquire these exclusives and offer them as PS5 exclusives in some form, or get exclusive content, whatever the case may be. You know, you can't take a hit on the console price as well. There has to be a balancing act here. So it's just going to be very interesting to see how it all shakes out. Is it going to be Microsoft wins out by offering a more compelling price point, or does Sony win out by sheer volume of games, even though they had to spend quite a bit to get all of those games? A lot of interesting moving parts here, and it's very hard to predict, but I'm damn sure excited to hear more about both consoles and get price points and things of that nature. But that's going to conclude this video. Definitely sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Very interesting topic to really digest, but that's going to wrap up this one. I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.